announcement, and then we will break for lunch. Trustee Fagan, will you please convene the Committee on Institutional Advancement?
Thank you, Chair Kimball. Will the Committee on Institutional Advancement please come to order? It's now time for the committee to consider today's consent agenda, which consists only of the minutes of the November 2020 meeting. Is there any objection to the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. The committee has two action items on today's discussion agenda. Item 2 is an action item seeking committee approval for the George and Judy Marcus Hall for Liberal and Creative Arts at San Francisco State University. The item will be presented by De'Ara Ashley, Vice Chancellor, University Relations and Advancement, and Lynn Mahoney, President of San Francisco State. Please begin, Garrett.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. This presentation is a facility naming request by San Francisco State to name the George and Judy Marcus Hall for Liberal and Creative Arts. The proposed naming recognizes the Marcus's transformative $25 million gift to the College of Liberal and Creative Arts. This gift established the George and Judy Marcus Funds for Excellence in the Liberal Arts, which endowed 2 faculty chairs in the Creative Writing Department and 2 more in the School of Cinema. The funds also support the renewal of facilities as well as faculty and student research through the George and Judy Marcus Awards for faculty and student research. I now turn the presentation over to President Mahoney to say a few words.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to present to you today a request to name the George and Judy Marcus Hall for Liberal and Creative Arts at San Francisco State University. George and Judy have long been active, generous supporters of the California State University and are proud graduates of the CSU, both having earned their bachelor's degrees at San Francisco State. George is a trustee emeritus of the CSU Board of Trustees, having served from 1981 to 1989, and he's a current member of the CSU Foundation's Board of Governors. He also served for many years as a regent of the University of California. Judy is the former board president of the Community Services Agency and an active leader with the Humane Society Silicon Valley, Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, Montalvo Art Center, and Avenidas Senior Center. Most importantly, Judy is a dedicated and committed member of the board of directors of the San Francisco State University Foundation. Over the years, both George and Judy have served San Francisco State faithfully on boards and advisory committees. They've been robust patrons of the creative arts, the humanities, and athletics. They've also contributed to and inspired others to contribute to the Willie L. Brown Jr. Fellowship Program. And still they've chosen to do more, much, much more. Their $25 million gift to establish San Francisco State's George and Judy Marcus Funds for Excellence in the Liberal Arts is transforming the university. This gift, combined with a recent $1.8 million athletic scholarship fund gift, represents the largest donation in the history of our university, $26.8 million. The George and Judy Marcus Funds for Excellence in the Liberal Arts sustain student and faculty research across San Francisco's College of Liberal and Creative Arts. It supports 4 endowed chairs and major program enhancements in both the departments of creative writing and the School of Cinema. In its inaugural year, it has already raised the profile of the college by enabling us to recruit 4 highly regarded faculty. The Marcus Endowed Chair in African American Studies, Artel Great, was recently named a finalist for the Sundance Episodic Lab. His films have screened worldwide in major multiplexes, art house theaters and museums, as well as on Netflix, cable, and broadcast television. The Marcus Endowed Chair in Social Justice Fiction Filmmaking, Mayuran Tirulchelvam, screenwriting debut, the neo-noir The Girl Is in Trouble, executive produced by Spike Lee, was a critic's choice from the Village Voice. The Marcus Endowed Chair in Creative Writing, Tanya Foster, received the 2020 Creative Capital Award for Monkey Talk, a multidisciplinary project on surveillance, aesthetics, and race. And the Marcus Endowed Chair in the Creative Writing Department, Joseph Cassara, received the Edmund White Award for debut fiction, 2 International Latino Book Awards, and the National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Award for Best Fiction Book for his novel, The House of Impossible Beauties. The Marcus gift has strengthened the national reputation of our flagship programs and has made San Francisco State an even stronger, more relevant, and supportive place for our students. They'll have more resources and more opportunities to develop their crafts. And thanks to that, and thanks to the Marcuses, they'll have more opportunities. It is with great pleasure that I seek approval to name the George and Judy Marcus Hall for Liberal and Creative Arts at San Francisco University in recognition of the incredible efforts George and Judy have made and continue to make in advancing San Francisco State. Thank you.
Thank you, President Mahoney. The naming of the George and Judy Marcus Hall for Liberal and Creative Arts at San Francisco State University is an action item before the Committee on Institutional Advancement. May I have a motion from a committee member to approve the item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Hello.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Trustee Fagan, thank you so much for the opportunity just to say a few words on this item. I feel I would be remiss if I did not speak up, considering that George Marcus gave me my first real job many years ago, back in 1992. I'm very proud and feel very blessed to know the Marcus family very well. Judy and George's contributions toward education, philanthropy, the civic life of their community, our state, and the nation are among the most extraordinary of any Californians who I have the privilege of knowing. And their commitment both to the CSU system and to San Francisco State in particular is so extraordinary. And this opportunity to recognize their contributions through naming this building after them is a wonderful reflection of what it means to ensure the long-term strength of our system, which is basically having graduates who go out into the world, do well, do good, and then come back and support our system. And again, in this case, San Francisco State University. So I just think this is so fitting and so wonderful. And at a time where we're gathering this way virtually, we can't be together. There are so many challenges out there. Students are studying from home. It's wonderful to have a bright spot through this action today. So thank you for the opportunity to have the floor. I intend to support when it goes to the full board. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. As impressed and grateful as we all are on this on this move, there's nothing like hearing that kind of personal testimony. It's very much appreciated, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? It appears there are no further questions or comments. There's been a motion and a second to approve the item. At this time, Ms. Kiss, please take a roll call vote.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. Okay, Trustee Arambula.
Aye.
Trustee Day. Trustee Day. Okay. Trustee Fagan.
Yes.
Trustee Furstenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Ortiz-Morfett.
Yes.
Trustee Sebelius.
Yes, with immense gratitude.
Thank you. Trustee Simon. Chair Kimbell.
Yes.
And Chancellor Castro.
Yes.
Okay. The naming passes.
Thank you, Ms. Kiss. I'd now like to turn it over to Chancellor Castro for a few remarks and to introduce the donors.
George and Judy Marcus, two extraordinary friends of San Francisco State and the CSU. Having first met as undergrads at San Francisco State, the Marcuses are the campus's most generous donors, having given more than $31 million to their beloved alma mater. Their visionary and far-reaching philanthropy has supported athletics, the arts, humanities, the Guardian Scholars Program, and the Willie L. Brown Jr. Fellowship, as well as multiple scholarship funds. And they have contributed to the CSU in so many ways beyond their philanthropy. George is a former CSU trustee and member of the Foundation Board of Governors, and Judy as a member of San Francisco State's Foundation Board of Directors and longtime volunteer. The Marcuses' philanthropy will positively impact San Francisco State, the Bay Area, and the state of California for generations. And the George and Judy Marcus Hall for Liberal and Creative Arts will stand as a lasting tribute to their unwavering commitment to our students and our faculty. Thank you, George and Judy, for your vision, your generosity, and your decades of dedicated service to San Francisco State and the California State University. Please share a few words with us.
Both George and I are from San Francisco, and we were lucky enough to make the decision to go to San Francisco State. And for that, we are especially grateful for everything that they gave us. We both lived at home, and we worked jobs, and were able to get a fine education.
Our education at State is the important factor and the ability to succeed that allowed us to make the $25 million contribution to State. Probably one of the most, when we're hopeful to help make the liberal arts department one of the most robust and successful in California. I hope that gives professors the opportunity to do research and the administrators to recruit outstanding faculty from anywhere to fill chairs that we can now create. Liberal arts, as you all know, is a difficult area to raise money in. And so we thought we would fill a gap that is not generally filled because of the complexity of explaining the liberal arts area and how important it is to succeed in life. SF State gave us a unique advantage among other schools, and we are so delighted to have selected it, as Judy said. State is noted for creative writing, and we wanted to be noted as the most outstanding school with excellence in liberal arts in the United States. Thank you.
We would like to thank all of the faculty and the leadership of the school for the outstanding job they have done without receiving the appropriate recognition. Also, thank you to all of our instructors and faculty who have prepared us to succeed. We couldn't be more grateful. Thank you.
Go State.
Wow. So for a lot of us from the liberal arts background, we are certainly appreciative, and there's not a lot of words to say. So thank you again, George and Judy, for your generous contributions to San Francisco State and the CSU. The second action item is the annual report of donor support for 2019-2020. As required by the Education Code, this report is submitted to the Joint Legislative Budget Committee and the Department of Finance. The item will be presented by Garrett Ashley again as Vice Chancellor, University Relations and Advancement, and Lori Redfern, Assistant Vice Chancellor, System-Wide Advancement. Vice Chancellor Ashley, will you begin the presentation? Garrett.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. Today we present to you our annual fundraising report for fiscal year 2019-20. It may be somewhat cliche to note that this has been an unprecedented year, but I believe it is important to underscore how the resolute, dedicated, and adaptive efforts of CSU advancement teams have succeeded despite numerous challenges. As the pandemic unfolded, campus advancement teams quickly focused on urgent student needs, such as access to home-based technology and rising food insecurity. Donors have been nothing short of extraordinary in their response. They have stepped forward to address both of these urgent needs while maintaining a focus on our long-term vision for the future. They supported faculty innovation while providing students with the tools to learn from home. They also understood when circumstances made it necessary to shift direction or delay new projects or programs. As a result of this remarkable generosity, I am pleased to announce that the California State University has again achieved record levels of philanthropic support. In 2019-20, the CSU secured more than $641 million in charitable gift commitments, surpassing our previous record by 13%. Gift receipts totaled $408 million in the fiscal year, which was 10% more than last year. Our strong pipeline of philanthropic support has become a consequential and essential resource for the university. These increases are driven in part by campus fundraising campaigns, Rising in the East at Cal State East Bay, Bold Thinking at San Francisco State, and The Power of Doing, the campaign for Learn by Doing at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, all surpassed their ambitious campaign goals and raised a combined $1 billion during their respective durations. These focused efforts effectively tell the CSU story and inspire individuals to invest in the transformational leadership and social mobility that are the hallmarks of our mission. Specifically, the CSU saw several instances of truly monumental generosity, such as the gift of 300 acres of land in Placer County to Sacramento State, which will become the campus's Placer Center and serve one of the state's fastest growing regions. And a multi-million-dollar bequest to CSU Monterey Bay will provide approximately $1 billion annually for student scholarships. We are immensely grateful for such impactful support and each and every investment made by over 240,000 donors. I'd like to thank and congratulate every campus for contributing to the record success. Last year's philanthropic gains are due to tremendous resolve, adaptability, and creativity from campus advancement divisions, which, like the rest of CSU, had to readjust quickly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I now turn this over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Lori Redfern to share more details from the report. She will also highlight some of the creative ways campuses have been connecting with donors in recent months. Lori?
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Ashley. Thanks to record giving, our endowments also reached another all-time high of $1.8 billion in 2019-20. Donors added an additional $94.6 million to endowment to support efforts in perpetuity. Distributions from endowment exceeded $65 million, funding student scholarships, research innovation, and faculty excellence. This has become a tremendous resource for helping students stay on track to graduation. In this chart, we see how gifts are designated by purpose. Through new gifts and pledge payments, the CSU received over $408 million in 2019-20. These funds are important resources for innovation, collaboration, and thought leadership. They amplify the operational funding received from the state of California. Similar to previous years, 98% of donations to the CSU have a donor-designated purpose. Just 2%, representing $8.7 million, are unrestricted. 54% of gifts received are designated to current programs, funds available for use today. That is over $222 million in support of scholarships, instruction, and helping students with basic needs. Within these current program designations, the area of greatest support, with 1/3 of all funds received, was our academic programs. The funding has helped the CSU address critical workforce needs in nursing, social work, and education, community resources whose importance has been underscored by the pandemic. This last year, 23% of giving went to endowment. As mentioned earlier, that represents $94.6 million. About half is dedicated to scholarships and the other half to faculty excellence and academic programs. 11%, at $43 million, is earmarked for campus building projects. This support typically enhances bond-funded buildings and renovations. Thus, gifts for this purpose will fluctuate based on the number of projects underway. 10% is irrevocable deferred gifts, a marked increase from previous years, and include charitable remainder trusts and gift annuities. It is typical to see a modest shift to deferred giving in uncertain economic times. As we adapted in the first weeks of the pandemic, our focus was on the well-being of our alumni and donors. Development professionals called them to ask, how were they doing? Was their family healthy? How was their business impacted? They were curious about how the CSU was adapting. So stories were shared about how the CSU was solving problems, from creating face shields with our 3D printers, to hosting food distributions, to opening campuses to house first responders. They were conversations that reinforced that the CSU is a community of caring people who step forward to help others. And those in a position to help continued to do so. The next step was to find new ways to remain engaged and continue to seek support. One of the great benefits of being a system is that campuses can seek help from one another to solve the obstacles they face. As the CSU Advancement Academy, the professional development arm of the University Relations and Advancement Division, significantly ramped up efforts to facilitate brainstorming and tackle emerging issues. From running secure call programs from home to adjusting messaging to managing team performance and morale. Across the system, campus professionals shifted programs that were based on events and in-person contact to safer alternatives. Today, campus teams are creating quality interactions with donors from a distance, through the mail, and virtually. The following are some examples. When you can't bring a donor to campus, bring the campus to them. This slide has photos of a puzzle sent to Fresno State donors depicting a familiar scene from campus. With this gift, donors were able to pass the extra time at home and fondly remember Fresno State. This puzzle, along with the wellness calls, were particularly meaningful to Emeriti faculty. What do you do when you can't host your annual donor stewardship event? Celebrate home for the holidays. This slide has images of a gift box sent to members of the CSU Fullerton community. The kits included ingredients to make orange-kissed brownies using a recipe by the campus's First Lady, Julie Vergie. Attendees also gathered for a holiday celebration on Facebook Live, led by President Fram Vergie. This event helped the campus maintain momentum in its recently launched comprehensive campaign. In August, San Diego State celebrated the groundbreaking of its Mission Valley Center with a drive-in event that adhered to local health guidelines. The ceremonial groundbreaking featured celebratory speeches by President De La Torre, the mayor of San Diego, and campus leaders. Staying safely in their vehicles, a small group of key supporters attended the event. President De La Torre also visited homes of major gift donors, offering thanks and a champagne toast in their driveways. A donor commented that it was the most personal, unique, and unexpected way to express gratitude, and that he was deeply moved. These are among some of the safe ways that advancement teams have been engaging with our donors, alumni, and constituents in recent months. I now turn the presentation back over to Vice Chancellor Ashley for closing remarks.
Thank you, Lori. Advancement teams are focused on telling the CSU story and creating donor connections to support students. Despite the pandemic and budgetary challenges, we will remain aggressive in our fundraising efforts so that the CSU can fully realize its extraordinary potential as the nation's largest, most diverse, and most consequential public university. I look forward to working with campus leaders and helping them achieve their philanthropic goals in the coming year. Trustee Fagan, that concludes our report, and we're happy to answer questions.
Well, wow. I think we're all pretty impressed by the accomplishments of Garrett and Lori and the entire team at the Chancellor's office, as well as the individual presidents and their people on those campuses. But in addition to the accomplishments of the fundraising team, it also shows the commitment and confidence in the CSU system by those donors who, of course, we appreciate greatly. So the annual report on donor support for 2019-20 is an action item before the Committee on Institutional Advancement. May I have a motion from a committee member to approve the item?
Can I make a comment before we go to vote?
Let's get the motion and second first, and then we'll have a discussion.
Oh, pardon me. I jumped the gun.
So I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Now, into the discussion. Romy.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was too early. I want to also express my appreciation and congratulations to the stellar year. Fantastic, especially for state universities that is, well, relatively new to this, because in the past, in the long past, state universities were not in the habit of going aggressively out to seek philanthropic support. But I want to draw the board to one item. Among the many millions we raised, 15.4 millions were donated specifically for athletics, and that is for the entire CSU. That is about less than 4% of the entire amount. These $15.5 million would not even cover the deficit, the annual deficit of the athletics department on one of our campuses with a Division I football team. Clearly, that dispels a myth that high-profile but also high-cost athletic programs bring in sufficient money to pay for themselves, much less benefit the campus as a whole. Furthermore, many years ago, I believe it was Long Beach, Fullerton, and Northridge, they abandoned their expensive football programs. And yet, together with other campuses that do have a Division I football program, these campuses, without them, do even better in fundraising than other CSU campuses. That I take that from our agenda. It is right in performance benchmarking. You can see it there. So I wonder whether we should not rethink the high cost of Division I athletic teams and whether they are suitable for the CSU. Thank you.
Thank you, Romy. Actually, just a kind of personal story. My late wife was a trustee many years ago, Mary Jean Pugh, and she used to have great, I don't want to say battles, but discussions with then Chancellor Dumke over the appropriateness of major athletics at the CSU campuses. So I'm not sure I was ever, which side I was ever on that, because I'm mixed, but she was adamant, and it drove Dumke nuts in any event. But aside from that, so other comments, questions? Okay, it appears there are no further questions or comments. There's been a motion and a second to approve the item. At this time, Ms. Kiss, please take a roll call vote.
With pleasure. Trustee Arambula.
Aye.
Trustee Day. Trustee Fagan.
Yes.
Trustee Furstenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Ortiz-Morfitt.
Yes.
Trustee Sebelius.
Yes.
Trustee Simon. Chair Kimball.
Yes.
Chancellor Castro.
Yes.
And that motion also passes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kiss. Chair Kimball, one point of personal privilege the committee chair, Jean Furstenberg, would like to make before we close. She's toughing it out in her medically induced condition.
No,
Would you like to make the comments, Jean?
I can't, so you have to do it, Doug. Sorry.
Okay, then I'll take it from here. So we're wishing her the best and appreciative that she's online here. But I believe all of the trustees would agree with her comments. Would like to acknowledge with pride the many CSU alumni participating in last week's celebration of America. First, from our nation's first second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, an alum of CSU Northridge, to alumni Tom Hanks of CSU Sacramento. Eva Longoria of CSU Northridge, James Monroe Englehart of CSU East Bay, and Commander Victor Glover of Cal Poly Sloat, celebrating the inauguration from the International Space Station. Our alumni indeed shine bright in our nation's capital across the country and more than 200 miles above the surface of the earth. Chair Kimball, this concludes the business of the Committee on Institutional Advancement.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. It is now time for us to take a little break and have some lunch. And let's see, it's 11:30. So I think if we were to return at 12:15, that will give us a little extra time. So that will convene now and come back at 12:15.